Good afternoon, everyone. We are recording the session, so something should show up on your screen acknowledging that you will allow for the recording. After the recording is completed and the session's done, I definitely will share it with you today. First, I want to say thank you for joining me today. It's Wednesday. It's Sunday. It's a beautiful day out there in the afternoon. And we're going to make this as fast as possible. It's normally about a 2-hour session. I try to get it done within an hour and a half, an hour, 45 minutes, and that then allows us for a question and answer session. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and let's start the class today. So we're going to be talking about how to successfully sell HUD homes. And the process we're going to definitely jump into the HUDhomestore.gov. I'm going to navigate you through RAIN as well on how to enter those forms. So a lot of people ask me, what is a HUD home? A HUD home is a 1 to 4 unit residential property acquired by HUD as a result of foreclosure action on an FHA insured mortgage. When a loan insured by the Federal Housing Administration goes into default and forecloses, the lender may submit a claim against HUD, the FHA insurance fund. And in exchange, HUD will take the property, they take the deed and the title, and they pay out the insurance claim. They're then going to market that property to regain the loss from the payout and the insurance claim. HUD then becomes the property owner and offers it for sale to recover the loss of the foreclosure claim. Offered for sale at fair market value and based on recent appraisals. Yes, every HUD property has an appraisal that's been done onto it. And the appraisal is not shared with us like it used to be in previous times, but that appraisal is used to set the listing price as well as the minimum property repairs or property standards for the HUD home, determines the escrow amounts. They do vary in price and location as well as condition. It's so important to note that they are being sold as is. No warranties, no guarantees, no representations about the property. FHA insurable or otherwise. No repairs, except if the field service manager and the asset manager deems repairs are necessary to make the property safe, secure, and marketable. Buyers are allowed and encouraged to get independent home inspections. Buyers typically do not acquire liens or bills. Who oversees HUD? A lot of people ask, what is the process for the HUD? So what occurs is that the claim is filed, the property conveys over to HUD, the deed and title, and it will first go into the mortgage compliance. And if we look at a chart of organization for HUD, we have HUD, then we have different HOCs. You have your Santa Ana HOC, Denver HOC, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. We are currently in the Philadelphia HOC. We're in the 5P area. I'm in the state of Virginia, so that's where we're located at for our Philadelphia HOC. Managing and marketing of the assets, it will go through the MCM, which is the mortgage compliance manager, the field service manager, the FSM, and then the asset manager. If you look at the map of the United States, it breaks up our different HOC centers. So we have the Atlantic HOC, the Philadelphia HOC, our Denver, and our Santa Ana. We're currently in the 5P area, which is the Philadelphia HOC. Our asset manager is RAIN and Companies, one of the best asset management companies I've worked so far. It is the HOC Philadelphia, and it's considered the 5P area. If we look at how does a home become a HUD asset? So the mortgagee initiates the FHA claim. It's conveyed to HUD. The mortgagee is then received by the MCM, receives the property. They're going to ensure the condition and marketability. The FSM inspects it. They ensure it's safe, secure, and marketable. The asset manager is going to market the property. They're going to ensure it's in marketable condition. They are also responsible for selecting the appraiser who will appraise the property, as well as they select and onboard different local listing brokers. Your buyer select closing agent is known as the BSCA. They also will help clear the title as well as close it. Anytime during this process, if something arises with the title or the condition of the property that doesn't make it marketable, then it will go on a backflow back through the addition. So if it comes to the asset manager and there's something wrong with the field service inspectability of the property, it could easily convey back to the MCM for quality control. And initially, if there are issues with title, I've been in the industry for about 21 years, and with REOs about 12. Of those 12 years, I've only had about 7 properties that have actually had to convey back to the mortgagee due to issues not being able to clear on the title. Who does what? It's so important for us to understand the workflow of HUD properties. So we look at the MCM, the AM, the FSM, LLB, and the BSCA. So let's break these down and decode these. Sometimes I feel like we talk in a different language or like alphabet soup. So mortgage compliance manager, that's the MCM, performs a variety of pre and post conveyance services to ensure HUD's interests are protected. Conveyance of condition, guidance to the mortgagee regarding claims and conveyance, ensure marketable title. Your asset manager. Your AM manages the market sales process for HUD homes, selects local listing brokers, orders the appraisal, sets listing price to ensure HUD homes are accurately and competitively valued, generates listing agreements and price changes, reviews and approves all HUD bids placed in HUD home store, handles HOA, POA, COA issues, generates DocuSigns contracts, signs contracts, and RAIN HUD addendum, assists to resolve title issues, orders termite inspections for FHA loans and lead-based fate inspections for FHA loans on homes built prior to 1978, task FSM with property condition issue changes, make sure sales achieve highest net return, minimize holding time, handles closing and accounting of funds, and customer service and satisfaction. I'm going to go ahead and put everyone on mute just to make sure we don't have any background noise. If you want to ask the question, just raise your hand, put it in the chat box, or you can also just unmute yourself as well. So your field service manager, your FSM, provides property maintenance and preservation services consisting of inspecting the property and completes the HIPR, which is the HUD Property Inspection Report, and the PCR, which is the Property Condition Report, secures the property, completes the trash out, sales clean, and initial lawn services, performs safety and hazard repair, addresses vandalism issue, provides ongoing maintenance for interior and exterior of HUD homes. Your local listing broker, your LLB. LLBs are subcontracted by the asset managers and will be responsible for listing and marketing HUD properties and will serve as the eyes and ears for the AMs. Perform initial inspections, place lockbox and provide keys, ready to list inspection, ready to close inspection. We submit BPOs and marketing reports. We place the property in appropriate MLS and provide signage and access to each HUD listing. Obtain accurate bills, HOA, taxes, including all partials, not the tax records. Provide routine bi-weekly inspections and reports. Report any issues, access conditions, and aid in resolution. Deliver customer service and informational resources on HUD listings and HUD sales process. Provide training and outreach classes, just like we're doing here in assistance. Provide wide market exposure to the HUD sales process. Assist with contract execution, as well as collect the EMD, deliver the certified EMD upon execution to the closing agent, the BSCA, communicate with selling agent upon bid acceptance to expedite the contract process, including assistance with utility activation, order HOA, POA, and COA disclosure package, and assist with any title issues or property condition changes issues, assist with extensions, amendments, and cancellations. Now we're going to look at the BSCA, and that is reference to the buyer select closing agent. If everyone could make sure that they are on mute, that would be very helpful as we proceed forward. Want to make sure we don't have any background noise going on. So your BSCA, they're required to maintain active logins to Yardi P260. This is so important. I know everyone on this call most likely has a relationship with some type of title company, or your buyer has a title company they prefer to use. You just want to make sure that that title company is up to date with their title ID and their logins are up to date in the Yardi P260 system. Sometimes what occurs is someone that was handling the account, maybe they're no longer with that company, and that email is still the main email in the Yardi P260s. You want to encourage your BSCAs to go in there, update all the information. If they renewed their insurance, renewed their licensing, that they need to upload that as well, just so it doesn't hinder any delays when it comes to time of closing or getting in preparation of closing. The BSCA closed the sale for only the buyers identified on the executed sales contract. Very important, HUD does not allow assignments or assignees on the contracts or amendments and addendums which has been executed by the buyers and HUD's delegated asset manager. They're going to take care of the real estate taxes. Taxes for the current year shall be prorated through the date of the closing. HUD will only pay for taxes currently due and will not pay or reimburse any party after closing if real estate taxes are reassessed by the local government. Homeowner associations, that covers your HOAs, your POAs, and your COAs. Only for those that are prorated from the date of HUD's ownership to the date of closing. So operation of law, when a property is foreclosed on, all the prior debts, liens, and claims against it are wiped away. That is a term of law and a term of art for the law, wiped away. However, during HUD's ownership and forward up until closing, those are the responsibility of HUD. We want to make sure that those are all disclosed and paid for on the HUD CD, all statement. Special programs. We do have special programs, our Good Neighbor Next Door, considered our lottery programs. We're going to get into those as well. I just want to make sure that the BSCA is well versed on that and assisting with the closing. They'll pay, so it is important to note that HUD does pay for closing costs, up to 3% of the closing cost. That's if it's asked for on the HUD contract at the time of bidding. Of course, it's customary closing costs in our area. The buyer select closing fee is included in the closing costs if it is requested, so long as the closing costs are not exceeding the 3%. The BSCA is also responsible for recording, making sure the recording the special warranty deed, the grant deed transferring ownership from HUD to the buyer, as stated on the executed sales contract. For the second note, deed of trust is required for special HUD programs. That's for your Good Neighbor Next Door, that 50% silent mortgage. We'll talk about that as well. The silent note that they keep on it. HUD 1 closing and disclosures. It is so important to note that these need to be uploaded 5 business days prior to the closing. We can't wait to the day of closing for that HUD CD to be generated. We need to give our asset manager enough time for them to review it, approve it before the closing. Of course, the BSCA will assist with deed preparation and then also accounting and wiring of the closing. So recording the deed, that must be done within 1 business day after closing. Delivering the closing package, final HUD 1, closing disclosure and certification. Copy the wire proceeds, transfer confirmation, evidence the deed was delivered for recording, copy of an invoice paid at closing, copy of disbursement, accounting for all incoming, outgoing funds related to the transaction, and for special program sales, original note and copy of G&D, that's the Good Neighbor Next Door, and then anything that has to do with government or nonprofit. If the sale is canceled, it is so important that you never allow your contract just to expire. Always make sure that it's either going to be canceled or extended, and make sure you're submitting the correct documents. If for whatever reason it is canceled, we want to make sure that all the information is delivered to HUD in a timely manner. We're also going to review the forfeiture earnest money that we need to comply with that. That's so important to go over that with your buyer. So how do we find HUD homes and who can bid on HUD homes? Let's talk about that process. Your local MLS and the HUD home store, anyone can bid on a HUD home. They normally fall into 3 typical categories. You're looking at either your owner occupant, your investor, your government agencies, and the HUD approved nonprofit. It is important to note that even if you are working with an organization that is certified as a nonprofit by the IRS, that doesn't mean they're always going to be approved by HUD. There's a certain process they need to go through to be approved by HUD as a nonprofit. Only NAID certified agents can bid on a HUD property. You want to make sure that you all have been NAID certified. Just ask your broker for the NAID number. They're the ones that actually obtain that. You also want to make sure that you are logged in as a HUD home store as a registered bidder. So I'm going to now take you over to the HUD home store. I love using examples as we learn this process. So this is the single source for all HUD homes. You go to hudhomestore.gov. We navigate through the bottom section. I'm going to click on Virginia, where we're at. I can choose either by all, owner occupants, investor, Good Neighbor Next Door, my government agencies, my nonprofit, or my dollar. If you want to look to see if there's any properties currently available for your Good Neighbor Next Door, we currently do have one in our area. We're the listing broker for it. and it's rugby. These are great opportunities for firefighters, police officers, teachers, EMTs that qualify for the good neighbor next door. What occurs is, even though this property is listed for $70,000, the individual who qualifies for the good neighbor next door would bid $70,000, but at the time of closing, the loan would be only $35,000, and the remaining $35,000 will be held as a second note by HUD. That is then forgiven over a 3-year period. So 1/36 of that loan is forgiven every single month until the end of 3 years, and is completely wiped away. What a great opportunity to give back to our community for those who work and contribute to our community. So that one does qualify for the good neighbor next door. Now, not all HUD homes qualify for the good neighbor next door. Sometimes I have people that go to the HUD.gov, they do research on the good neighbor next door, and they click on the link to see available properties, and it just takes them to the HUD home store. So they are under the impression that all these homes are available for the good neighbor next door, but it's not. It's only a very specific buyer type. We're going to select buyer type all, hit our search. This will give us a one-line summary of all the properties that are currently available across the whole state of Virginia. As you notice, the inventory is low. In previous years, pre-pandemic, we would have 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5 pages down here. Now it's just one page. It gives us a quick overview of the case number, the address, our price, is it newly listed, your bedrooms, your bathrooms, what period is it? Is it exclusive? That means only owner occupants. If it's extended, that means it is owner occupant and investor.
But it said about 6,500 to get it.
If we could mute our phones, please, that would be wonderful. I know we're all super busy. We probably have a lot going on today. It also let us know lottery. So lottery would put it into either the good neighbor next door or government agencies or your nonprofits. And you'd have to drill into that to see which one qualifies. Just because it says lottery doesn't mean it encompasses all those. It could be very specific to the certain nature of what HUD has determined that lottery is going to be. It does let you know when the open date is for that bid. So we're in the exclusive period for right now for this one, Windjammer. The bids will open up on the 8th. It is important to note that if you actually click on the property and go into the page for that property, it's going to give a different date here for exclusive bid period. Don't get confused on that. That's not when they're opening the bid. That's when the owner occupancy bid period is over. HUD has just recently changed that time period. Previously, for properties that are coded IE or IN on the FHA financing, those would be a 15-day owner occupancy. Now it's a 30-day owner occupancy time period for properties coded IE and IN. And the way that works is for the first 10 days, the bids are sealed. What does that mean? HUD is not looking at any of the offers. So it doesn't matter if you get your offer in sooner or later, just before that bid deadline. Only thing HUD is looking at is the net. What is the total amount that's going to be given to HUD that contract will produce at the end by the time of closing. So once again, this is when the owner occupancy time period ends, and this is when the bid period ends. So that's 8/8. If we drill into this property and we notice that it's coded IE, so that means the appraiser has appraised this property and HUD is listed at the current appraised price. That is an opinion of that one appraisal. These appraisals can change if you have a new FHA buyer on it. That previous appraisal is not going to convey with the property. It's the responsibility of the buyer to get a new appraisal. However, the appraiser has determined that this property does need some repairs to meet the minimum property standards. Now, that doesn't mean that HUD will do the repairs, nor will HUD give the escrow as a gift. Those are repairs that will need to either be financed in or cash paid at closing for the repairs to be done after closing. No repairs can be done prior to closing. I always advise that one of the first tabs you want to go to is your addendum tabs. And there's two things you want to download. You want to download your property listing disclosure and your property condition report. The property listing disclosure is a form that is generated by the asset manager based upon the appraiser and also based upon the FSM's report. We're looking at the repairs. The appraiser has determined that it's coded at IE. That means repairs are under 10,000. We don't know how much the repairs cost are itemized, but we just know it's going to be under 10,000. They've stated repair, cracks, and bricks. Don't know if it's just something as simple as the house settling or if there's a foundation issue. There's something that you want to make sure that your buyer has the due diligence to expect during the 15-day home inspection time period. It does state on here property disclosures. Property is insurable with escrow. That's for this very specific property. But if you look at these other lines right here, these are actually kind of a boiler template. These will be on every single HUD property. So don't be alarmed saying, oh, there's mold contaminants there, or there's termites there. It's not. It could be or could not be. These are just boilerplate disclosure HUD gives on every single property. We go back to the next one. This is a very important report you want to download. It's the property condition report. This report is done by the field service manager when the possession of the property is taken. They go to the property, they make sure it's completely trashed out, remove all personal belongings. They complete the sales clean and the initial maintenance and yard work on the property. They then do a super light home inspection. If utilities are currently active, they're going to check all the electrical. If utilities are not active, they're going to hook up a generator to check the electrical. So right here, we see the cooling, air conditioning, HVAC tested and functional. Yep, we've got a thumbs up on that one. Electric wiring, yes, we have a thumbs up on that one. The stove, the range, the oven, the kitchen cabinets, other, all good, operational. This is one of the most important things that you want to look at on the property. You see right here where it says the water on pass. That means when you have a ratified contract, the bid's been accepted, the contract's been executed. Now it's your responsibility along with the buyer to have utilities activated. If it says water pass, that means it's good. Water can be activated. If at any time it says here on, it says fail. If it says fail, then you will not allow, HUD will not allow utilities to be activated on this property. But this one says pass, so we're good. But if anytime you see where it says fail, that means HUD won't allow that to be activated on it. If we go back to this again, we look at incentives. HUD does offer an incentive on it. Let me remove that. Hey, I still have my annotate on there. So let's get that off there. I'm going to clear that, clear all my drawings. So the Philadelphia Homeowner Center current sales. As of October 1st, 2016, the United States Department Housing and Urban Development officially launched the sales incentives for the states, including the HUD Philadelphia HOC ownership. That means for properties where you have an FHA buyer bidding on a HUD property, instead of a 3.5% down, it's only $100 down. That's for FHA insured properties. So once again, you have a FHA buyer, you have a HUD home. They submit a bid. Instead of a 3.5% down, it's only $100 down. HUD also offers a $500 bonus for properties that are 203K. So if you have a buyer that's financing for 203K, they do offer a 100% down. $500 down on that as well. Let me clear my annotation. Let's go back to the Windjammer. If we come back to another one, let's go to the Good Neighbor Next Door one. So the Good Neighbor Next Door, this one's currently in a lottery status. These will not be posted on the MLS. And the reason being is that HUD does not pay a commission, either for the buyer's agent or for the listing agent. It's considered giving back to the community as in revitalizing the area. However, the buyer can pay you as a buyer's agent for compensation, for commission, and that can be financed into the loan of the property if they are seeking a loan. But HUD does not pay buyer's commission or listing commission. This one is stated that it's insurable with escrow. If we click over to the addendums, I want to download the property listing disclosure, and I want to see what's occurring with this. The appraiser has noted plumbing needs to be repaired, and the sewage or sewer needs to be repaired. Once again, it states down here, property is insurable with escrow, and then we have the boilerplate templates here. So it's coded IE, the insured escrows are under $10,000. So this is eligible for the FHA 203B. Let's look at the property condition report. Once again, this is done by the field service manager. Utilities were on, they checked it, it was good. HVAC functional, electrical wiring functional, yes. Our stove, our cabinets, yes. Look at right here. It says pressure test failed. So when you see this right here, pressure test failed, that means when it comes time to put the utilities on, the asset manager, the field service manager will not allow the water to be turned on. You can have electric turned on, you can have gas turned on, but you're not allowed to have the water turned on. If you have a loan and the appraiser requires the water to be activated, there is a workaround with that with the lender through the FHA 203B or the 203K. When they finance in the escrows, they just do an overage of 20% of the escrow amount to make up for the water not currently being active on the property. Going back to our actual slideshow presentation. So owner occupants effective 3/1/2022, HUD will increase the exclusive listing period for owner occupants from 15 days to 30 days. For properties coded IN and IE, the sealed bid period will remain 10 days. Non-owner occupant bidding as an owner occupant can face up to 5 years in prison and $250,000 fines. That's very important that investors should never bid during the owner occupancy time period. That's reserved just for owner occupants. So the way it works, properties that are coded IN or IE, they will have a 30-day owner occupancy time period. For the first 10 days, it's going to be a sealed bid period. At the end of the 10 days, on the 11th day, HUD opens up the bids. The bid that nets HUD the highest, that is the bid that will be awarded. If no bid is accepted on the 11th day, it rolls on to a daily bidding cycle until a bid is accepted or until the 31 days. On the 31st day, it then will open up to investors. What are the bid periods? HUD homes coded IN, which means insurable, no escrows with it. Those properties are good just for your straight FHA 203Bs or your VA or your conventional, or of course, cash as well. 10-day sealed exclusive listing bid period from time of listing. AM will review bids on the 11th day. If no bid meets the minimum net requirements set by HUD, then the home will go on a daily bid cycle for the next 20 days. Bids can be accepted, counter, or rejected daily. Day 31, HUD homes coded IN or IE will then open to owner occupants and investors. Listing period changes to extended. Now for properties that are coded UI, that is going to be a 5-day sealed bid period, exclusive listing for owner occupants. The AM will review the bid on the 6th day. If no bid meets the minimum net requirements set by HUD, then the home will go on a daily bid cycle for both owner occupant and investors. Bids can be accepted and countered and rejected daily. If we go back to the HUD home store and you click on the state and you just say all, we can quickly look at the listing period. If you see exclusive, that means owner occupant. Extended, your investors can now bid on this property along with the owner occupants. Lottery would be special programs set aside by HUD. So exclusive are just owner occupant, extended owner occupants, and also your investors. Lottery rounds. Lottery rounds before properties are available to the general market, only for Good Neighbor Next Door, government agencies, and HUD-approved nonprofit. That will be a 7-day bid period before it's listed on the HUD home store. The bidding process. Bids are accepted 24/7, but not are reviewed on weekends and holidays. Bids received the same day are considered to be received simultaneously. Bids received on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are considered to be received simultaneously. 2 or more acceptable bids in the same amount are selected by randomized electronic drawing. Daily bid deadline is 11:59 p.m. That is Central Standard Time. Bids may be withdrawn, changed prior to the bid deadline. Let's look at the abbreviations in the codes. What does all this mean? IE, IN, UI, LVP, F, HOA, PCR. Sounds like alphabet soup. IN, insurable. Property meets the FHA 203B financing requirements. No obvious repairs necessary to insure an FHA loan to buyer. i.e. insurable with escrow, property eligible for the 203B FHA loan. Necessary repairs total less than 10,000. UI, uninsurable and current condition. Now it will be insurable once it's repaired, and that's where your 203K with repair comes in. Property requires repairs that exceed 10,000 after the close of escrow. And it's not eligible for FHA mortgage insurance and the properties as is current condition. But again, it does make it eligible for a 203K with a repair escrow. Insurable with escrow. What does that mean? Does HUD give the escrow? No, HUD is not giving the escrow. It's not a gift that's given to the buyer by HUD, nor will repairs be completed prior to closing. The escrow is an amount that the buyer has to escrow in, determined by the buyer and the lender when they receive estimates from licensed contractors. That will then be added onto the loan, not the bid amount. It's important that you're not adding that escrow amount onto the bid. So if the property is 100,000 and you believe escrows are going to be about $4,000, do not bid 104,000. You're actually overbidding the property. HUD's not going to gift that money back to the buyer. The way the escrow works is that you bid 100,000, but the loan will be 104,000. You're financing in those repair escrows, which will be escrowed and then paid to the contractor after closing. It's not a gift from HUD. I do need to reiterate again, no repairs prior to closing. It is so important that you cannot go into that HUD property and make those repairs. You know, the light fairy can't show up and put electrical lights in there, nor can the termite moisture damage be repaired, peeling paint, anything like that. You can't make any changes or alterations to the property prior to closing. It will be added to the mortgage. The total cost of itemized list repairs, it's 100%, 10%. So they do it 10% as an overage to cover any unforeseen potential repairs. I stated earlier, if a property where the water's not able to be activated, talk to your lender about allowing that to then be addressed after closing, still financing the property. They normally do 120% of the estimated repair cost. So let's say the repairs are 4,000 escrow. They're gonna actually escrow in 4,400, but if water's not activated and they allow the escrows to be added in, it's going to be 120%, so it'll be $4,800. Lenders responsible for holding the escrow and the repairs, but it is the responsibility of both buyer and agents to obtain those bids through licensed contractors. Your lead-based paint, LBP, properties built prior to 1978 may contain lead-based paint. LBP addendum form must accompany the sales contract. Flood, F. Property is located in an area where coverage under the National Flood Insurance Program may be required to obtain a loan. HOA, so that's going to cover your HOA, your POA, and your COAs. It's covered by an association. Most likely require fees and dues to be payable by the current occupant once it's closed. Property condition report, that's a limited condition report provided by the FSM and downloadable from the HUD Home Store. Does HUD offer special programs and incentives? Yes, they do. We talked about this earlier, the $100 down program. Instead of your FHA buyer putting down 3.5%, if an FHA buyer bids on a HUD home, instead of 3.5% down, it's only $100 down. What a great savings that is to your buyer. They can put that either towards repair escrows or towards their closing costs. Now they're still responsible for the EMD, the appraisal and the property inspection and closing costs if they're not asking for closing costs from HUD. We then talk about the bonus to the buyer's agent for FHA 203K. There is a $500 bonus for that. The $100 down payment FHA loan available to owner-occupant buyers who purchase a HUD with FHA financing. The key to that, it's an FHA buyer, it's a HUD home, and then you have to have a lender who honors or facilitates the $100 down program. You'd want to go to your lender and ask them if they offer the $100 down program. Once again, it's a lender. Not all lenders do offer the $100 down program, but if they do, you want to make sure that you're inquiring about the $100 down program. There is an addendum that we have to download from HUD Home Store as well for the $100 down addendum. Buyers still responsible for the EMD, the earnest money deposit, the home inspection, utility activation.
So
as well as the appraisal. So make sure, and if they're not asking for closing costs, let me see if you need to be muted. Right. They are responsible for the appraisal and any closing cost as well. The $500 selling agent bonus for 203K. The selling broker has the potential to receive a broker bonus in the amount of $500 at closing. The following conditions must be met in order for the selling broker to receive the applicable bonus. The preliminary bid must be submitted on or after October 2016. We're way past that. The FHA 203K loan commitment letter from a lending institution must be received with a signed contract if the purchase is to be mortgaged. The words broker bonus must be written or typed at the top of the signed sales contract. The selling broker must complete and sign the subject HUD notification. Settlement must occur for the broker to be eligible for said bonus. The buyer select closing agent, the $500 to be paid to the selling broker in addition to the commission stated on line 6A of the sales contract. The bonus will only be paid at the closing. Canceled files will not qualify, of course. So it's only going to the selling broker. So Good Neighbor Next Door program designed to enhance communities for firefighters, EMT, police officers, and teachers. 50% off property listed for HUD homes listed under the Good Neighbor Next Door. Requirements: property must be located in a designated revitalization area. Buyer must live in the home at least 36 months. Neither buyer nor spouse has owned title of the property in the last 12 months. Neither bidder nor spouse has prior participation in the Good Neighbor Next Door program. So again, this is for areas that's been decided by HUD. They're in revitalization areas. The person that qualifies for it must agree they're going to live in the house for at least 36 months for that silent mortgage to be forgiven. Neither buyer nor spouse has owned title of the property in the last 12 months. Neither bidder nor spouse has prior participation in the Good Neighbor Next Door. I see you guys are marking up on my screen. I love it. So if you have any questions, just let me know. We can definitely put all those questions on here. So Good Neighbor Next Door, so important, must bid 100% of the listing price. The amount of the earnest money deposit required is either 1% of the list price, but not less than $500 and no more than $2,000. Can utilize any type of financing or cash deal. FHA financing is allowed on Good Neighbor Next Door. Must qualify for the entire contract amount prior to discount. So if the house is $70,000, let's take an example, the property on Rugby, it's $70,000. They will bid $70,000. If they are to obtain a loan, the loan must be qualified for $70,000. But at the time of closing, the loan's only $35,000. The remaining $35,000 is held up as a silent note by HUD, forgiven over a 36-month period. They can finance in reasonable closing costs because HUD's not going to pay for closing costs on the Good Neighbor Next Door because they're already given a 50% discount. Prepaids and escrows. However, real estate commissions will not be paid unless the buyer broker does have them put into there as mortgage. So they can be mortgaged in on the property for the real estate commission. As a listing broker, we receive no commissions, just our way to give back to the neighborhood. EMDs. So if the property is $49,999 or less, the EMD is going to be $500. It's going to be a certified check or money order. No personal check, no business check. If it's $50,000 to $249,000, the EMD will be $1,000. Certified check or money order. $250 and above, it will be $2,000 certified check and money order. Vacant lot EMD will be certified check or money order, the amount of 50% of the list price. EMD is payable to the buyer's select closing agent, collected by the local listing broker and delivered by the local listing broker to the BSCA. So it's not payable to the buyer's broker. It's not payable to the listing firm. It's only payable to the buyer's select closing agent. So your buyer's title company, that's who you make the EMD out. RAIN does require that that EMD is delivered to the listing broker. We confirm we're in receipt of that EMD. We upload it to the RAIN portal. They will then generate the contract. Once the contract is executed, the listing broker will then deliver it to the BSCA. I've had agents call and say, Susan, the BSCA is right down the street for me. Can I just go deliver it to the BSCA? I'm like, yes, you're more than welcome to go deliver it to the BSCA now. Just have that title company send me an email verifying they're in receipt of it, and then I will upload it in Yardi. This is just compliance for assurances that that EMD is either with the listing broker or is actually at the title company. EMD forfeiture policy. It's so important that you do review this policy with your buyer. If it is accepted offer, there is a document in there your buyer's going to be signing where they're acknowledging the EMD forfeiture policy. If the executed contract is canceled, the closing agent must forfeit earnest money to HUD or release earnest money to the buyer based solely upon the discretion of Rain. Neither the buyer nor buyer's agent have the authority to give direction regarding the disposition of HUD's earnest money. EMD may be entirely or partially forfeited if the contract fails to close. The failure by a purchaser to close on the sale of a HUD property within the allowable time period, including any extensions granted by HUD, will result in the forfeiture of the EMD, except where special circumstances exist and are documented and accepted by HUD. Exception, HUD cancels the contract for inability to close for any reason. Of course, 100% of the EMD would go back to the buyer. Pre-approved versus pre-qualified. Pre-approved means a commitment has been obtained by a recognized mortgage lender for financing in a specific dollar amount sufficient to the purchase price. Uninsured, if pre-approved, 100% will be returned if unavailable to obtain the mortgage financing. Otherwise, 50% forfeited and 50% refunded. Owner occupants. The purchaser will receive a refund of the entire earnest money deposit under the following circumstances. There's been a death in the immediate family, contract holder, spouse, or children live in the same household. There's been a recent serious illness in the immediate family that has resulted in significant medical expenses and substantial loss of income, thus adversely affecting the purchaser's financial ability to close on the sale. There's been a loss of job by one of the primary breadwinners, or substantial loss of income through no fault of the purchaser. For FHA insured sales, HUD or direct endorsement underwriting using HUD guidelines determines that the purchaser is not an acceptable borrower. For uninsured sales, the purchaser was pre-approved for mortgage financing in an appropriate amount by a recognized mortgage lender, and despite good faith efforts, is unable to obtain a mortgage financing. Pre-approved means a commitment has been obtained by a recognized mortgage lender for mortgage financing in a specified dollar amount sufficient to the purchase of the property for other good cause as determined by HUD. Now let's look at investor purchase. Please note there is a 15-day inspection time period. Even though it only applies to owner occupants, investors are more than welcome to have inspection time period. However, if they decide to cancel based upon the home inspection, they will forfeit the entire earnest money deposit, regardless of the inspection results. Cancellation is requested. Once again, this is only for investor purposes, not for owner occupant purposes. Uninsured sales. The purchaser will forfeit the entire amount of money deposit for failure to close within the allotted time, regardless of the reason. Uninsured finance sales, 100% EMD is forfeited regardless of any reason. This is for insurance. This is for investor purchases. FHA insured sale, the purchaser will forfeit 50% of the earnest money for failure to close. The purchase determined by HUD or the direct endorsement underwriter to be unacceptable buyer. The purchaser will receive the forfeiture of the earnest money deposit if the sale fails to close for any other reason. So let's clarify this. You have an owner occupant. They have the due diligence time period, the 15 days home inspection. If they decide to cancel within that time period of the 15 days because of home inspection, they have to submit the cancellation notice, requesting the EMD to be refunded back to them, and they have to send a copy of the home inspection. If they do not send that documentation, then HUD does reserve the right to deny the EMD being returned back to the owner occupant and forfeit that EMD. So whenever you're requesting a cancellation, it is so imperative that you either put the lender denial letter, if it's based upon a loan denial, or if it's based upon the home inspection, then you have to submit the home inspection report along with that EMD forfeiture, that EMD disclosure release contract. 15-day due diligence contract contingency for owner occupants. As I said, your investors are more than welcome to have the home inspection completed if they decide to cancel on that home inspection. For investors, the EMD will be forfeited. Owner occupant purchasers may request the sales contract to be canceled if within 15 days of HUD's acceptance, the property is inspected by a professional home inspector who discovers a structural roof system defect or non-compliance with local codes, zoning, or building requirements that were not previously disclosed on HUD's and HUD elects not to correct or within such 15 days period. The property is inspected for the presence of radon by a professional radon inspector to an extent unsatisfactory to the buyer. Kitchen appliance, window, air conditioning units, light fixtures, receptacles, and switch covers are not included in operating systems. The earnest money deposit will be returned to the owner occupant purchaser only if HUD concurs with the home inspection report findings. If the buyer chooses to cancel the sales contract due to the inspection or tests or other test reports, the buyer must submit the cancellation within 15 days of the date executed by the asset manager. And so important that they do include as well the copy of that home inspection report. Always give documentation to HUD. 15-day due diligence contract contingency for owner occupant. On an uninsured sale, the owner occupant purchaser will forfeit 50% of the earnest money deposit in those instances where, despite good faith efforts by the purchaser, there's an inability to obtain a mortgage loan from a recognized mortgage lender. On either type of sale, the purchaser will forfeit the entire earnest money deposit in those instances where no supporting document is submitted, where the documentation fails to provide an acceptable cause for the buyer's failure to close, or where documentation is not provided within a reasonable time following contract cancellation. So again, when you're requesting a contract cancellation and you're asking for the EMD to be returned back to the buyer, make sure that you are submitting timely and accurate documentation supporting the claim. Closing timeframes, cash, hard money, 30 days from date of acceptance, execution of contract, not the date the bid was accepted, but the date that the contract is executed. Financing, except for 203K. So this would be for 203Bs with escrow, your VAs and your conventional, your USDAs, or your FHA, VHDA loans. They're going to be 45 days from date of acceptance or execution of contract. 203K financing, HUD's going to give an actual 15 days on this. So it's going to be a 60-day date from acceptance or contract execution for closing. Extensions, if for any reason that you need to submit an extension request should be submitted 5 calendar days prior to the contract expiring. Don't wait to the day of expiration or the day after expiration. Submit that contract extension 5 days prior. Complete the extension request form at raincompany.com extension. Email extension request form to extensions@raincompanies.com along with the extension fee and supporting documents. Extensions are granted in intervals of 15 days upon written requests from the purchaser. Extensions of time to close the sale are entirely within HUD's RAIN discretion. Extension fees. Extension fees are non-refundable if the closing does not occur. At closing, unused extension fees will be prorated to the purchaser and refunded by escrow. The granting of one extension shall not obligate the seller to approve additional extensions, and the seller shall declare default for the purchaser's failure to close upon the expiration of the original closing period and the expiration of the extension. Extensions will be for a period of 15 calendar days. Fees will be based upon the contract sales price of the property. $150 or $10 a day for sales price is $25,000 or less. $225 or $15 a day if sales price is $25,000 but less than $50,000. $375, $25 per day if sales price is equal to or more than $50,000. If it is a cash sale, current proof available funds must be provided by either a letter or an account statement from the purchaser's financial institution. Enclosed fees must be in the form of a certified check or money order. MoneyGram, Western Union money orders will not be accepted. Important, if the asset manager has not received all the following: extension form, extension fees, and appropriate financial letter from lender by contract expiration, the contract will be canceled. So once again, do not allow contracts to cancel either on their own, expire on their own, either do the extension or do a cancellation. Just don't let it expire on its own. If we go back to Rain and Company, so if we're coming to Rain, this is the website or URL for the asset manager, raincompany.com. This is a great resource for forms and information. If we click on forms, navigate to the bottom, here you will find your amendment, your extension request, and your cancellation contract. If I need to submit an amendment for any reason, this is where it's done at. All the forms are generated through Rain and Company. We select what we're doing. We're going to add a buyer, remove a buyer, change financing, other contract correction. Let's say we want to add a buyer. You put in the FHA case number, the property address, city, state, zip, your name as the agent, your telephone number, your email. The primary buyer is the buyer company, or you do an additional buyer. You would then add the second buyer, buyer name to add, buyer's address, the tax ID, is it a individual or company, phone, email, and select additional owner, additional investor, add company name, how the title will be held. Is it going to be individual, joints, tenancy with the right of survivorship, tenants in common, etc., financing only, and then you would hit submit. The form is then going to be generated. When the form is generated, you will click and download it. It will also be emailed to you, but you want to make sure that you're going to click and download this and email it to amendments@rain.com. So runs again, amendments@raincompanies.com. It's so important that you do submit supporting document requirements. If we come back to forms and let's say we need to do an extension request. Once again, we're doing everything right here on raincompany.com to generate this form, and then you're going to email this form along with submitting documents. But for the extension form, you do have to mail it, and you have to include the extension fee. Now, this is only if the extension request is at buyer's fault. If HUD, for some reason, is not able to close timely given title issues or HOA issues, you still have to submit the extension form. But you're just asking that fee to be waived since it's not a buyer fault for extensions. So you put in there your FHA case number, your property address, your city, your primary buyer, and the zip. And then you hit next. It's going to generate that form. You're going to download that form. It will also be emailed to you. And then you're going to send it to extensions@raincompanies.com. If we need to do the contract cancellation, it's all going to be done here on the raincompany.com website. FHA case number, the HUD case number, the property address, city, state, zip, buyer type, reason for cancellation, lender denial, home inspection, termite, lead-based paint, repair estimate, vandalism, title issue, job loss, death, or other. Request the earnest money. Did they want 100% back, 50 or 0? The buyer's primary name, you as a selling agent, the agent telephone number, agent email, you hit send. It's going to generate the form. You download the form. The form will also be emailed to you. You will then need to send it to cancellations@Rain and Companies. So amendment request, we just reviewed that, completing the addendums at raincompany.com and forms. Amendments will go to amendments@raincompanies.com. Changing the buyers. Now, it is important to note that buyer change, the primary buyer cannot be changed. You can add a buyer, but you can't remove the primary buyer. Change from owner occupant to investor may not be possible depending on the bidding period of bid award. Let's say the person bid as an owner occupant during the owner occupant time period. Now they want to change to investor. That's not going to be allowed because they bid during the owner occupancy. They can add a buyer, may be able to add an additional buyer. Escrow amount change cannot be used to remove escrow, but you can change the escrow. Now, remember, these aren't quick fixes. It could take up to 72 hours to process. Amendments will not be executed the day of closing. So make sure that we're setting those expectations and executing timely. Failure to remit amendments on time may result in delayed or rescheduled closings. Cancellation. Do not let the contract cancel on expiration. Just don't let it expire on its own. Make sure that you're either doing an extension or a cancellation. Complete the cancellation form at raincompany.com. Download the form. You're going to submit it right there. Download it. email it. Include documentation with the EMD disposition request form. Email cancellation form along with supporting documents to cancellation@ringcompanies.com. It's so important whenever you're asking for an extension or a cancellation or an amendment, you have to submit supporting documentation. Let's look at some other codes: our CCA, home inspection, utilities, WDI, LBP, appraisals, and repairs. Closing cost assistance. Will HUD pay for closing cost assistance? Yes, they will. Only for owner occupants, not for investors. Up to 3% closing costs, customary for our area. Allowance. Home inspections, are they allowed? Yes, they're allowed, and they're highly recommended. 15 days from the time of contract execution, not the bid, but when the contract is executed. Must fill out the utility activation form for permission to activate utilities. That's at blmco.com, utility activation tool. De-winterization is the responsibility of the buyer. Utility activation and deactivation is responsibility of the buyer. Selling agent or representatives must accompany buyer and inspectors. Termite letters, FHA financing. HUD will only pay for WDI letter and treatment for FHA financing and active termites. If termites are not active, HUD will not pay for treatment. This is only for FHA buyers. If you have a VA buyer or conventional buyer or cash, HUD will not order the termite inspection, and they're not going to pay for the treatments. If you have an FHA buyer, then HUD will order the termite inspection and pay for only treatments, not repairs, and only if they're active, not dead. Cash or other financing. Buyer can have a WDI or a moisture inspection at their own expense. HUD will not pay for WDI inspection or treatments. Lead-based paint, your LBP. Stipulations for HUD to complete a lead-based paint assessment. The property is built prior to 1978. It's an owner occupant and it's FHA finance. And so if it's VA or conventional or cash, they're not going to perform the lead-based paint for properties built prior to 1978. If it's an investor, they're not going to perform the lead-based paint inspection. Only owner occupants with an FHA financing must meet those above conditions. Requests made to the FSM for inspections through the asset manager via the portal, Yardi P260 at contract execution. HUD will fund up to $4,000 for stabilization. If it exceeds $4,000 for stabilization, then at HUD's sole discretion, they can either cancel the contract and buyer receives 100% of the EMD back, or allow to change finance to 203K conventional or 203K streamline, only if less than $5,000. Appraised value. Buyer must obtain their own appraisal. HUD no longer provides appraisals to buyers or lenders. The repair escrow is determined by the buyer's new appraisal. If the appraisal is lower than the bid price, then the buyer must bring the additional cash to closing. So if your buyer bids $250,000 on a property, and let's say it was listed for $225,000, and the appraisal comes in at $225,000, but they bid at $250,000, HUD will not renegotiate that contract. The buyer has to bring the difference in cash or cancel the contract. HUD does not renegotiate nor reduce the price to the appraisal. They will only sell it for that contract price. If any lender required repairs, must be escrowed and repaired completed after closing. So HUD's not going to repair the property. If the appraisal comes back and it has the conditions on there for lender required repairs, HUD will not make any of those repairs, and HUD will not renegotiate the contract. HUD will not lower the price of the contract. HUD will cancel the contract or request that the buyer move forward with the contract. HUD will not make any repairs nor renegotiate the sales price. No repairs as is. Buyers cannot move in or start repairs prior to closing. All lender required repairs must be escrowed and completed after closing. Vandalism. If vandalism has occurred to the property, contact the asset manager as soon as you know to determine option on moving forward or canceling or postponing or extending. Submitting the bid. We're actually going to go to the HUD home store and I'm going to show you how you submit a bid. Let's clear all this information out. So we're at the HUD property. Let's click on Windjammer. This one is just listed. It's under an exclusive bid period. It's only for owner occupants. They're going to open up the bids on this one, I believe 8/8. So we have up until the August the 7th, 11:59 Central Standard Time to submit this bid. It's a sealed bid period, so HUD's not going to review any bids during this time period. They're just going to let the bids accumulate in a sealed bid period. On August the 8th, they're going to open up all the bids. We scroll down to where it says submit an offer. Make sure that you are registered as a HUD bidder. Just go here and say, I want to register as a bidder. If you're not already registered, you select the type. You are a selling listing broker, NAID. Your role, are you the principal broker? Most likely your principal broker is already certified with the NAID, associate broker or selling agent. You put in your principal broker's NAID number, your license number, your license state, the state, your license expiration, then you add your office. Create your username, your password, select your security questions, answer them, put contact information, hit privacy, and then say you're not a robot and submit. You're now registered on the HUD Home Store. If we click back to this, we want to scroll down and hit submit an offer. Can you explain the bidding period dates again, please? Yes, I will. Once I submit this offer, I'll explain again the bidding period time period. So we're going to put in here, we're a selling broker, my NAID number. You want to get your NAID number from your agent, your firm. State that I'm not a robot and hit verify NAID. This is going to take you to the actual bid page. You have 15 minutes to submit this bid. The current price on this one is $240,000, and you want to make sure that you're submitting a bid. Once again, this is the appraised value. Now you can submit a bid over that if you want. Just be aware if you do, the buyer's responsible for the difference. There is going to be a new appraisal done on this property. So the new appraisal may appraise for more, may appraise for the same, may appraise for less. So let's just say we're going to put an offer in for $250,000 on this property. If you notice here, it asks what type of purchaser. Are we a 203B? Are we a 203B with escrow? Are we a 203K? Applying for conventional other financing not involving HUD or FHA. So this would be your conventional and your VA, or we paying cash. Let's say we're going to do a 203B with repair escrow, because this was coded IE, insurable with escrow. When we were actually on the disclosure tab, it stated that brick repair needed to be done on it. It is responsibility of the buyer to obtain those bids if they're going to have it financed in. If we think the bids are going to be $5,000 to repair the brick, do not put it here. Don't put a bid in for $255,000 thinking HUD's going to give you back that $5,000. They're not. That $5,000 escrow will only be dealt with on the loan, not the bid price. Line 5, seller will pay reasonable and customary costs, but not more than the actual cost, no more than paid by typical seller in the year, obtaining finance or closing, excluding broker's commission, and the amount not to exceed this. HUD will pay up to 3% closing costs. So let's just put in here that we're going to ask for $4,000 in closing cost. Line 6A, that is for the selling broker. Upon sales closing, seller agrees to pay the broker identified above a commission, including the selling bonus if offered by the seller. Now, you are more than welcome to change this. Let's say you've been working with this buyer for a very long time. You put in 100 offers. This is the 101 offer. You really want them to win this, so you want to make sure that the net is increased to HUD. So you're more than welcome to reduce your commission if you so choose to. You notice down here, this is the net to HUD. This is the only thing that HUD is looking forward to, just what the net is. So if we come in here and we say, no, we're not going to ask for any closing cost assistance. I really want to better my offer to HUD and I want to increase that net. I'm going to reduce that down. As the selling broker, you can reduce this down even further if you so choose to. This is the only one you cannot alter, is the listing broker commission. That stays the same. HUD is only taken in consideration purchase price minus closing costs minus the buyer's commission equals the net to HUD. This always stays the standard. So whoever nets HUD the highest, that is the bid that is going to be chosen. It's not the one that's, I have people that call and say, Susan, I got a cash buyer, close in 7 days. That's great if they do, but that is not the determination of HUD selection of bid. The only determination to HUD is just that net amount. You notice here, I can't even select investor, owner occupant, or other, because this is coded as an exclusive owner occupant time period only. It's a 10-day sealed bid period and 30 days total for owner occupants. So it's not open currently to investors. I have I may have missed it. Can we increase the price? You sure can if you want to increase the price. If we're here and you say, okay, I think this property is worth 300,000. I've looked at the comps. I've run a CMA. I believe the new appraisal will appraise this property for 300,000. So you come in here and you want to put 300,000 for your bid, asking either for up to 3% closing costs. And once again, this defaults to 3%. You can reduce this down to increase the net to HUD, but be mindful. The list price is 240, you're bidding 300. If the new appraisal comes in at 300, you're good. There's no issues. If that appraisal comes in less than 300,000, HUD is not going to renegotiate that contract, and you must prepare your buyer that they may have to bring the difference in cash to closing if it appraises less than the contract price, or you have to cancel the contract. HUD will not reduce nor renegotiate the contract price. Line 10, if seller does not accept this offer, seller may hold such offer as a backup to the accepted offer. Seller may not hold backup as an accepted offer. I always suggest we put in there, yes, that they do hold up as a backup offer. We're not in ratification. You're not depositing an EMD. We're just in a bid period. So if you submit the offer and you say may hold as a backup offer, and let's say someone submitted an offer that was higher to you, netted more money to HUD, that bid was accepted. If for whatever reason that contract falls through, HUD will go back to every single bid that said hold up as a backup offer. They're either going to award you the bid, so you'll get an email, congratulations, your bid's been accepted, or HUD will counter that bid. If your buyer's already moved on to another property and you receive one of these emails, don't freak out and say, oh no, HUD's accepted the bid, my buyer's already moved on. Just don't respond to the email. You have a time period as determined in the email when you have to respond. If you don't respond, then HUD just moves on to another offer. However, if this was the dream home, the must-have home of your buyer, you're now a hero because you selected may hold as a backup, and that comes back around and they accept your offer and your buyer hasn't found another property. That's a great position to be in. So that's what I always advise. It's totally up to you if you want to say hold or may not hold backup. This is so important. So these are the conflict of interest. Are any purchasers or an employee, immediate family member, management official, affiliated entity of HUD asset manager, HUD field service manager, appraiser of HUD AM, local listing broker, buyer selected closing agent, HUD, except the employees who have no involvement in management or oversight of HUD properties. So if you are the selling broker, you don't list any HUD properties, just the selling broker. You're a NAID selling broker. You're not listing HUD properties. You can buy HUD. Your family members can buy HUD. However, if you are a listing broker and you list properties for HUD, you cannot buy HUD properties. Your family members cannot buy HUD properties. If you have ownership in an LLC, that LLC cannot buy HUD properties. Any agent in your firm cannot buy HUD properties. Your admin and staff cannot buy HUD properties. Their immediate family members cannot buy HUD properties. Only if you're a listing broker. Field service managers, the BSCAs, they are not allowed to buy HUD properties. And the reason being is that we have information to HUD's proprietary system. We have insight into all the HUD properties. Therefore, they consider that a conflict of interest. But if you're just a selling broker and no one in your firm lists HUD homes, or you don't list HUD homes, then you can purchase a HUD property, or family members can purchase a HUD property. But HUD does take this conflict of interest very seriously. I'm a HUD listing broker, so therefore I cannot buy any HUD properties, neither can any of my family members buy HUD properties. None of my agents can buy a HUD property. We can represent buyers, but we cannot buy them for ourselves, for owner occupancy, for investments. None of my admin or staff or their family members can buy HUD properties. They consider them a conflict of interest because we have proprietary information. They do ask, is the selling broker agent submitting this bid as a purchaser or has ownership interest in the entity purchasing the property? So again, if you're just a regular selling broker and you're not listing HUD properties, you can buy HUD properties. However, HUD will not pay your commission and they're not going to pay closing costs if you're purchasing the property. Hopefully that makes it clear for everyone. Also for investors, HUD's not going to pay for closing costs for investors. They only pay closing costs for owner occupant non-licensed real estate agents. If we go down to the different types, so we have individuals, your business EIN, or your TITIN, your US government ID. Living in the property, not living in the property. The social security number or the EIN number or the ID number, confirm that information. Company name is fine in the company. The individual's name or the name of the person signing for the company, their last name, their address, their state, their city, their zip code. Very important right here, where we see the email, confirm email, phone, and cell phone. Everything is now done by DocuSign. So it's going to be sent to the buyer's email. And they're also going to use their cell number for a confirmation code. So it is important that you double check, make sure all this email information is correct, no spelling errors, no old emails, a very current email address that's easily accessible by your buyer. Make sure that the cell number is correct and there's no errors in that as well. This is going to be used to generate the DocuSign for your buyer to sign. If you say to me, Susan, I've got 2 buyers. Okay, we can add 2 buyers. I have 3 buyers that are going to be on this. We have 3 people on the loan. You can add up to 3. I have 4 people on the loan. You can add up to 4. If you have a 5th buyer, you would just have to do an addendum, but you can actually add up to 4 person on this property. That will also be on the loan or be paying cash. The buyer select title company. These are for title companies that already have the NAID title ID with HUD. I would say probably now about 99% of title companies have the HUD title ID. If you go in here and just start typing in, one of the companies we use here locally is Champion Title. It will automatically populate the information for you. It auto generates. We put who the escrow officer is going to be in here. We select it. We then put in who's going to be the backup one selected, and then we can submit. Whoever you use in here, I'll put another one that's used a lot in this area. If I put in Coleman, that's going to generate as well. All the information pre-populates. I put in who's going to be the escrow and who's going to be the backup. If for whatever reason you start typing in your buyer select closing agent and it doesn't populate it up here, that's okay. Just go ahead and fill all that in. You will then help them get their title ID NAID number by submitting the supporting document. They're looking for the E&O insurance, their license, and some other documents to support for them to become certified to represent HUD for closing the properties. This area right here. So this is who the broker designated in your firm can sign HUD contracts. Every firm is different. Some firms only the principal broker. They assign different managing brokers, supervising brokers. Some firms allow all the agents to sign the HUD contracts. If it is designated to someone else in the office, you want to make sure this information is correct. You want to give them a heads up. Hey, it's coming to your email. It's on FYI. You do need to sign it. The signing order of a contract is going to be the broker, the buyer, buyers, the title company, and then RAIN. So broker, buyers, title company, RAIN. If it's being hung up, your broker's not signing it, or the person designated in your firm's not signing it, it's not going to get generated. It's just going to hang out in that. And I've had people call me where it says, Susan, we put the wrong email address in there. And so we have to contact HUD to make sure they've got the new email address, or they put it with the supervising broker who's no longer with that firm now. And then we have to replace it with another supervising broker. And there's ways to work around that. But before you submit it, just make sure that information is accurate and correct. From here, you would just hit continue. Of course, I'm not going to continue because I'm not going to actually put this bid in. But what would show up next is a confirmation. So it just wants to give you a brief overview, and you're going to say, yes, I confirm this information is accurate, and then you submit it. Once you submit it, you're going to be taken to another screen, and it's going to show you the bid confirmation. Print that screen out, save it to your desktop, and save the bid confirmation number. If there's any issues with it later, you have that bid confirmation number. You can also log into your HUD portal, and you can then review all the bids that you've submitted. So items needed to submit the bid. I just showed you that. Let's go through a refresher real quick. The NAID number obtained from your broker, your real estate license number. You're going to put in the amount for the bid. If you want to overbid, you're more than welcome to. Just be mindful if the appraisal comes in less, HUD's not going to renegotiate the offer, and the buyer must be prepared to bring cash to closing. What type of purchaser is it and what type of financing they're applying for? Are they asking for the 3% or up to 3% closing costs? Be mindful that does affect the net to HUD. How much for the selling broker's commission? What type of purchaser is it? Is it owner occupant? During the owner occupant, investors cannot bid during the owner occupancy time period. And will they accept a backup offer or not? Once again, confirming there's no conflict of interest. And if you are a selling agent, you must disclose that you are the selling agent. HUD's not going to pay for your commission nor closing cost. Go ahead and put in the title company information. Just type it in. It should pre-populate. If it doesn't pre-populate, just continue to fill that out and then help acquire the title ID number. Make sure this information is accurate and up to date on who has the authority in your firm to sign on behalf of the firm for the HUD contracts. Winning the bid, once again, it is all about the net. So how do you calculate the net? The purchase price minus closing costs minus buyer side commission, that's the net to HUD. Whatever that amount is, that's what HUD is looking at for selecting the highest bid. All right, let's say you won the bid. Congratulations. Now what? You're going to get an email. The email will come from HUD and will state that you are now the winning bidder. It will give you links that will tell you to go into your HUD Home Store, your login, your portal, and finish your checklist. So the checklist is where you are documenting all the information is correct, and you're uploading a copy of the EMD, you're uploading the lender letter, you're uploading the authorized designated signer for the firm. If the principal broker is not signing, they assign other people to sign, that has to be uploaded in there as well. If it's cash offer, it's going to be the proof of funds. If it is a company, an LLC, a partner, and corporation, you got to upload those documents, operating agreement, who has the authority to sign on behalf of the company. So let's look at the electronic HUD sales contract. Note the sales contract for HUD sales is a unique contract different from customary contracts in your state. Be mindful, HUD does not sign any contracts pertaining to your MLS or your state. They're only signing addendums, amendments, and contracts particulars to HUD and RAIN Asset Manager. Electronic filing of the HUD contract addendum, that's all going to be done through your DocuSign. Owner occupant certification. For your protection, get a home inspection, your radon gas and mold notice, the lender letter commitment pre-qualification letter, forfeiture or extension policy, lead-based paint addendum if applicable, flood zone addendum if applicable, notice to purchaser addendum, and then the EMD made payable in either money order or certified check. It cannot be a personal check or a business check. Important. Please ensure all items on the bid checklist are uploaded and the earnest money is submitted to the listing broker timely. Proof of funds or lender letter, corporate documents if applicable, and a copy of the earnest money check must be uploaded within 24 hours. The contract cannot be initiated until all the bid checklist items have been submitted. Include the BSCA and E&O and license information if they're already not pre-populated when you are submitting the bid. Submitting contract DocuSign. The contract must be signed by selling agent, all purchasers, and the BSCA. The AM will sign and send notification of the fully executed contract. The AM's execution date becomes the official accepted date, or what we know as the ratification date. If they are asking for corrections, it's so important that you do respond within 1 business day of those requests. If you don't have the documents that they're requesting, just acknowledge their email, ask them for extension, and let them know that you are working on that. Financing addendum from FHA to other. So let's say your buyer originally submitted the bid as an FHA buyer. Now, for whatever reason, they want to change to VA or conventional or maybe cash. May cost the buyer money. Cost of lead-based paint and termite is now absorbed by the buyer. Termite letters average around 100. Your lead-based paint average about 700. That's just for the inspection, not the abatement cost. So you understand this, your buyer was the FHA, the bid was accepted, the contract was ratified. Now your buyer wants to change to VA or conventional or cash. If the termite inspection was ordered and treatment was completed, that cost now shifts over to the buyer. If the property was built prior to 1978, the lead-based paint inspection was done and abatement was done, that cost now switches over to the buyer. Now it's the same the other way around. Let's say your buyer was VA or conventional. They submitted the bid was awarded, contract was executed. Now they want to switch to FHA. HUD's required to order the WDI and treat it as active infestation. They won't make any repairs, but they'll treat. If it's built prior to 1978, then HUD is required to have the lead-based paint inspection and abatement. So it does go both ways. Closing protocol. Closing documents must be to the closing agent 7 days, 5 business days prior to closing. A ready to close inspection must be completed. That's the requirement of the listing broker. The CD HUD 1 must be approved by the lender if applicable. The CD HUD must be approved by the asset manager. Keys are not provided at closing. Just so you know that all these keys are coded to a very specific set of codes that's given to us by HUD. A lot of us have those key codes. So you want to make sure that your buyer is having that house rekeyed. After closing, coordinate with the listing broker for buyer's access to the property. The property must be rekeyed at buyer's expense. Utilities can be permanently activated. These are some contacts. We've got closing agents, our extensions, our field service manager, listing broker, appraisal, cancellation, lead-based paint, termite inspections, and vandalism and title issues. Resources, these are great resources, the HUDhomestore.com, the HUD.gov, the asset manager's rating company. One more thing I want to go over before we end for today is the utility activation process. So for our area, it is blmco.com. And if ever you want to find out who's responsible for the area, if we go back to the HUD Home Store and we select the state of Virginia, so I'll select Virginia, where we're located at, and I hit search, I click on this property and I go to the agent info. It's going to tell me who the asset manager is, who the listing broker is, and who the field service manager is. So if you need to find out who your field service manager, who's a listing broker, it's always going to be on the agent contact information. At the bottom of the blmco.com, you will see in the footer, utility activation tool. Click on utility activation tool. This is where you're going to submit the request to have utilities activated. That doesn't mean they're going to activate utilities. It just means they're going to give you permission to have the utilities activated. Utility activation is the responsibility of the buyer, and you will help and assist with them as the buyer's agent. So the form can only be submitted electronically. Upon submission, receive a confirmation email to the notification email address that you designate below. Please check your spam settings to ensure that you receive the submission confirmation. Allow 2 business days for processing. Your request cannot be processed until your contract is executed. Allow 2 business days for processing. You put in the date, the HUD case number, the property address, city, state, zip code, county, buyer's information, full name, number, email, the agent information, name, phone, street, state, zip, email, broker, broker's office. Very important here, activation period and preparation of the property for utilities desk. It is the responsibility of the buyer's agent to have the property prepared, de-winterized for utility activation, including the coordinated activities with utility providers and your inspectors or appraisers. Once turn on, off dates have been determined, please provide them in the area below. Do not have utilities activated or services completed until you receive permission to perform these tasks. Utilities may be activated for a maximum of 72 hours, excluding weekends and federal holidays. All fees associated with activating any utilities, including but not limited to inspections, permits, deposits, service fees, and applications fees requirements by utility provider are the responsibility of the buyer. BLM does not coordinate any dates or facilitate any payments or provide. It's so important that you have the house de-winterized. You must understand when a house is winterized, the water heater, the bottom of the water heater has this faucet that empties out the water heater. That is left in an open position because all of the air is being expelled out. The majority of the faucets inside the house, they're in the open position too. You want to make sure that your contractor or home inspector knows this, and they're closing down all those faucets before you're turning the water on the street. I've had home inspectors with other buyers agents try to de-winterize the house, not aware of the full process, and they've caused damage. They're not aware that that water heater is in a wide open position for the release valve, and they're turning the water on the street with the water key, and now water is flooding through the house. And by all means, please don't do it on your own. Don't go to Home Depot or Lowe's, get your water key and try to turn the water on the property. That has also caused tremendous damage to property. So it's very important that you are having either a licensed contractor, or if your home inspector does do that service, that they're aware of the complete procedure for it. Turn on dates, turn off dates, a re-winterization date, email address for notification, and specify Which utility is going to be activated? Is it water? Is it gas? Is it electric? Now, we did review on the property condition report. If it says plumbing, pressure test passed, you're good to go. If it says pressure test fail, that means you cannot turn the water on at the property. And if you try to turn the water on the property anyway, even though it's been denied and damages do occur at the property, be mindful that you are not liable for that, as well as your power. So it's so important that you do follow all of those very specific guidelines. Did I miss you going over the bidding period dates again? So let's review that again for the bid period dates. If we come back to our one-liners, we can quickly look at exclusive. So if we ever see exclusive, that means owner occupant. If it says extended, that means investor. Lottery means good neighbor next door. Properties that are coded, this one is coded IE. Properties that are coded IE or IN, insurable or insurable with escrow. They have a 10 sealed bid time period. That means for the 10 days that they are listed, HUD will not look at the bids. They're going to be sealed. They're going to open the bid on the 11th day. If no bid is accepted, it's going to roll onto a daily bid cycle for the next 21 days. It will be a total of 30 days for owner occupants. On the 31st day, for properties coded IE and IN, it will open up to investors. If a property is coded UI, that's going to be on a 5-day sealed bid period. HUD will open up the bid on the 6th day. If no bid is accepted, then that does open up to investors and owner occupants. So IN, IE, 10-day sealed bid period, 30-day total for owner occupants. Properties coded UI, it's a 5-day sealed bid period. Bids open on the 6th day, they then open up to investor owner occupants. This ends the HUD class for today. I was able to get through it quickly for you. We've only spent about an hour and a half. If anyone has any questions, you can unmute yourself. You can put it in the chat box. For this one, I could submit a bid up to 827. You could, but be mindful. Let's go back here again. If we look at the one-liners, so this property, HUD is going to open up the bid on August the 8th. So for the first 10 days, the bids are sealed. HUD's not looking at them, but they're going to open up the bid on the 11th day. If a bid's accepted, it's going to disappear from the HUD home store. If no bid's accepted, it's going to roll onto a daily bid cycle until HUD accepts the bid. This date that you're seeing here, bid period deadline, that is the bid period for owner occupants. So if your investors wants to bid on this, your investors have to wait until August the 28th. But if you have an interested owner occupant that wants to bid on this, you need to get your bid in prior to August the 8th. That means it has to be on August the 7th, 11:59 Central Standard Time for that bid to be accepted. Hopefully that makes sense. And once again, if you guys have any questions, put it in the chat box, or you can just unmute your phones and ask a question. But that does end today's session. So I've got another chat here. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are welcome. Thanks for spending time with me on this Sunday afternoon. I will also email you the copy of the slideshow, as also the recording. There's no fee to be on the HUDhomestore.com. There's no fee for that. If you are directed to a place where they ask for you to pay for something, you're not on the right URL, it's only free. The HUDhomestore.com or .gov. I know there's a lot of other companies out there that try to mimic or mirror HUD, and they charge like $29 or $49. You're on the wrong place if that's the case. It's a free site to go to. Let me know if you guys have.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed the class.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you took your time out on this Sunday to come join with us. I will definitely send out these slideshows and send the recording as well.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Guys, have a great, awesome day. If no one has any other questions, I'll see you guys later. I do these about once a month, so I'll send out ones for next month for August. It's going by so fast. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.